the hardest question that I have for you.
Okay.
Can I get your first and last name, and could you spell it out for me, please?
Yeah, my name is Ron Sparks. I'm running for Commissioner of Agriculture and Industries for the state of Alabama.
All right. So let's just go ahead and start off. You have quite a storied career here in the state of Alabama in politics. I guess can you speak a little bit about your experience and talk about like why you want to run for Agriculture Commission once again?
Well, that's a great question. I've been in public service a long time. I was first elected in DeKalb County as a county commissioner as a very young guy, 24 years old. And I served at the Department of Agriculture for 12 years. I was 8 years as a commissioner there. So I think I understand the department probably as well as anybody does in the state. As you get my age, sometimes you think, yeah, it's probably time to retire, it's probably time to go away. But when you see what's going on in Alabama, you see the farmers that are going broke. I have such a strong desire and care for those guys. I want to do everything I can to save them. Consumers in Alabama deserve a commissioner that will make sure that the food they eat is safe. And that's what I did when I was there. I stopped foreign countries from sending food into Alabama that was contaminated. I made sure that when you went to the grocery store, you knew where your food come from. So there's just things that has happened at the department since I've been gone that I want to go back and try to get it back to where I feel like it needs to be.
And you kind of mentioned this a little bit, and we were talking a little bit before we started, talking a little bit about, preservation and, making sure land stays the same, and just to give of course, here in Huntsville, we're seeing rapid growth. People are just pouring into the city, and now we're starting to see construction kind of just start spreading out throughout the Tennessee Valley. When it comes to farmers, and now that they're looking at, hey, it might be more viable to, instead of farming, to sell the land and let a neighborhood be built there. I guess what would be your response to that if you were elected?
Well, you're 100% right. As I travel through Huntsville and look at all the buildings that are being built from Huntsville to Decatur one of the things that we did when I was Commissioner of Agriculture, we had what we call a farm preservation program. We saved over 3,000 acres of farmland in Alabama. As far as I know, there haven't been an acre saved since I've been gone. And that's a problem. What that does is it buys the easement of that farm and allows it to stay in agriculture from now on. It's hard to go out when farmers are having the cost of input, not making the profit, diesel fuel's high, equipment's high, and then that farmer has an opportunity to sell that property at a high. It's hard to tell him he can't do that. But hopefully we can put some programs in that will help them understand that this land needs to stay in agriculture, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
And you mentioned kind of, being, how hard it is to farm right now.
Absolutely.
Because again, when people think of North Alabama right now, they think, defense, aerospace. But people forget this was a farming community.
Absolutely.
And parts of it still is. I guess how important is it to kind of remind people that farming is a staple here in Alabama, but at the same time was basically the economic engine of Alabama?
Well, it's a $77 billion industry in Alabama. It's the largest industry in the state. I always used to say when I was commissioner before, I don't want foreign countries feeding us like they're putting gasoline in our automobiles. Farming is extremely important in Alabama. I have so much respect for these guys that make a living farming the land, but they're struggling right now. We're losing farmers in Alabama. We're losing young farmers. We're losing old farmers. We've got people that says, Ron, I can't make it no more. I want to do everything I can that they can make it. I want to take the 1.5 cent sales tax off of farm equipment. Think about what that combine costs today versus what it cost 20, 25 years ago. That can put $40 million a year back in the pockets of farmers. I want to start an enhancement program like the state of Tennessee. My commissioner buddy in Tennessee, Commissioner Gibbons, has explained to me what they've done in Tennessee. They put $300 million back in the pockets of farmers in Tennessee. That's what we need to do in Alabama. We don't do enough for our farmers. And as commissioner, I can assure you that I will stand up and fight for our farmers and make sure that we keep them on the farm.
And you say that, and I want to ask, the kind of a rebuttal, because some people might say, hey, that tax money that you mentioned, that 1.5 cent tax, that's money that could go into other government programs. could go and help farmers. So I have to ask, how do you plan to kind of, spend that money to help farmers and make sure that farming stays here in Alabama?
Well, there's a lot of options there. When I ran for governor, I was very strong that we needed a lottery in Alabama, and we still need that lottery. And there's $700 million probably there that we're not getting. You're talking $40 million. $40 million is not a big number when you're talking about saving the farms of Alabama. Putting money back into pockets of farmers ought to be a priority. If you go down the budget and look at the budget, I think there's probably things that we could take away that shouldn't be there and put it to places where it should be there. And farming is not getting, in my opinion, their fair share. And I'm going to do everything I can to work with the legislature, realizing it's a Republican legislature, and I understand that. And I feel like that I have the ability to do that. But I think they have the same concerns about agriculture in the state that I do, and I think we can bridge some of those gaps.
And you kind of mentioned, of course, you're running as a Democrat in a very Republican state.
Absolutely.
So, of course, some people, they might say, well, why should I cross over the line from Republican to Democrat? So you mentioned, hey, I'm someone who wants to go over the line. I want to go talk to the Republicans. Is that something that you will make a focus if you were elected?
Well, I did. I was elected when Governor Riley was governor. I think Governor Riley would tell you that I worked with him as well as anybody could work with him. I was elected 2 times. The last time I ran for Commissioner of Agriculture, I won 62 out of 67 counties. I'm proud of my record. I'm proud of what we built at the Department of Agriculture. We made it one of the best departments in the United States. Whether it was the safety of your food, or whether it was starting the farm to school program, whether it was taking soft drinks out of our schools, whether it was making sure that big business didn't abuse our farmers. I'll stand on my record. I ask people all the time, tell me what I did that you didn't like. We did what was right. I never made a decision at the Department of Agriculture based on whether I was a Democrat or Republican. I made decisions based on what was right or wrong. And I don't know if people remember this or not, but the first time I took the oath of office, when I stood on the Capitol steps in Montgomery, Alabama, I had 2 ladies standing beside me that were my grandmothers. They taught me right and wrong. I don't divide people. I don't downgrade people. I've never run a negative ad in my life. I've never run a negative ad against anybody. I worked with Governor Bentley when he became governor and defeated me as governor. I thought my policies were the best. But the people of Alabama spoke, and I'm okay with that. But he asked me to come on board and work with him. And you know what we did? We brought telemedicine to the state of Alabama. That's what it's all about. It's not about Ron. It's about the people of Alabama. I'm honored of what the people, I've had a great career. People have been good to me. I'm willing to go back and give them a little more of my life to do the best I can to help the people of Alabama, whether it's the food they eat or whether it's the farm they farm on.
And, you mentioned that, and of course, the people of Alabama, and something you kind of referred to earlier is kind of, foreign, influences or foreign investment here into farms, especially here in Alabama. I guess what's your kind of take on, how there's, big concerns of foreign governments kind of buying into farmland here in the state?
I'd have a big concern if they were doing it in Alabama. I don't know really of an acre that a foreign country has bought in Alabama, but I certainly wouldn't be for any foreign country taking over acres of farmland in Alabama. I want to take care of Alabama farms. I want to take care of Alabama folks. So, I've had to handle those kind of decisions. And that's why it's important for me to go back. I can walk in that office day one. I can know where everything is. I know where every shop is. I know where every division is. I know what they do. I know what Weights and Measures does. I know what the plant division does. I know what food safety does. I know what animal health does. I know what's going on at that Department of Agriculture. That's why I'm going back, because right now, the people of Alabama deserve better. When they buy a gallon of gas, when they pay for a gallon of gas, they deserve to get a gallon of gas. Read that sticker on that gas pump today. It says the owner of this facility is responsible for the accuracy of this pump. That wasn't the way it was when I was there. We went out and made sure that pump was accurate, and that's exactly what I'm going to do again.